मूर्तिभेद विभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। ओम शांति शांति शांति। श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः। हरि ओम तत्सत्। So we are done with the aphorism number 41st, and this was about if there is a person who gets distracted in his sadhana, there is a downfall. There is again a limited consciousness, and then because of two factors, either he has done a lot of sadhana in his past life or in his early stages, and with the power of that spiritual realization and the wealth of his siddhis and his prarabdha, and in addition to that, the Guru's blessings, anugraha, this person immediately is tadaruda pramitihi, of that fellow who has become like this. Tasmin arudha pramiti yasya saha tadarudha pramitihi. Tasmin is what? That particular turiya pade arudha pramitir, whose consciousness is fully established in that particular turiya pada, is that state of complete immersion, unanimity, unification, non-differentiated oneness with that universal consciousness. That fellow, he's saying tat kshayat. What is kshayat? Tat kshayat is he doesn't have anymore any lower order of desires or cravings, because he is at that ultimate level of universal consciousness. Nirudha samadhi in the Yoga Sutra language. What happens there? Jiva Sankshayaha. It's not that he sort of dies physically, but he is no more having that sense of identification, and is not pulled in that direction. Now, before we go to the next verse, yesterday we had a good discussion about it. I have already earlier once mentioned that there are different stages of the sadhana, of the spiritual path, that we traverse as we ascend higher and higher, deeper and deeper into ourselves, to ascend higher and higher. In order to have that Vishwotirna avastha, you transcend the material consciousness comprehensively, and you establish in that meditative state. Now, in the Jagrata avastha, if we split these seven stages of this ascension, it's like a ladder with 7 steps. So the first 3 steps are in the Jagrata avastha. What is that Jagrata avastha? We had mentioned that it will be Shravana, Manana, and Nididhyasana. Shravana includes Artha Nirupana. So it's not just listening to the words, but also understanding them. Manana is for Shanka Nivarana, any doubt. So you confirm your understanding through Manana. And then sometimes you have Asambhavana, Viparita Bhavana. How is that possible? Or you have a kind of opposite kind of an understanding. No, it's the world which is real, that I see, that alone is scientifically verifiable. Why waste time on something which isn't visible? Why sacrifice something which you can see? That kind of an overturned idea about whatever you have studied and learned can strike you. That is viparita bhavana. That a person gains through nididhyasana, steadfast contemplation on the truth that he has already heard. So he logically interprets it and looks at all arguments and tries to convince himself and goes to a highest level, then is convinced. But they say these 3 things still you have brahmakara vritti, you have still vritti, some mental phenomenon is going on. Then you ascend to the next higher stage. That is called the Bilapani Avastha, the fourth stage, where is compared to the dream state or Swapnavastha. And why so? Because the sadhaka in that Bilavani Avastha, because he's all the time he's established in that Brahma Tattva, he's all the time thinking about it. How does he relate to the sansara? What the sansara looks like to him? One easy example would be, if you remember your school days, when you are going to write the most important examination, how did we all feel? We would see a lot of friends and people are going, but it's just like a dream because you're completely lost thinking about your examination. You have no anger or hatred or anything. You are very saintly that day. You are preserving all your positive energy because you are focused on your goal. You have to write that most important examination. Or as we found that example, that when you are lost, they're saying that the top level of that will come later on. They even compare this with some kind of conjugal bliss where a person doesn't think about anything else, is lost in that experience. Similarly, the person in divine consciousness is in a avesha. There are stories about how Thakur used to fall into a trance again and again, and people used to push him to bring him back into his senses. So, this Bilavani Avastha is one during which the sadhaka looks at the whole sansara as if it's a dream. He treats his own conscious experience of the divine universal self as real and treats the material reality around him as a dream. That looks like a dream to him because he is no more relating to it. If he goes to a further higher step, the fifth step now is this Bilapani. Then you have Brahmavid, Brahmavid Varyan, Brahmavid Varishta. Three stages. He's saying he goes to that fifth stage, which is called Prapti, is comparable with when you are completely drowsy and half asleep, as if you are intoxicated. You are seeing things, but you don't even have any patience to see the reality. You don't see the world as a dream. You don't even properly see it because you are falling into that state of deep sleep. You're falling into sleep. So it's a ardhas to susupti stage. Okay. And then you are completely lost in that Brahma consciousness. But remember, this is only the fifth state, and you are Brahmavid Vara. When Vilapani stage, you see everything as a dream. There you are a Brahmavid. You are already seeing the truth. Therefore, you do not take much interest in whatever is happening, the phenomenal, transient, evanescent reality around you doesn't fascinate you, but you can watch it as if you're watching a dream. Then you are in a half asleep state, that is Prapti stage. You're closer to that Atmakyana. Here you're almost like you're dozing off from reality, falling into trance. Okay. Now this is the Brahma Vidvara. He can get into the trance and he can come back on his own, as they say. After some time, he regains his consciousness. He'll fall into trance again and again. Then what happens in the sixth stage, which is called Turyavastha, is Brahmavid Varyan, even higher. And what is that? What happens to him? He is all the time experiencing only that Sachidananda Swarupa, and he doesn't get any experience of the samsara. So he's as if he's in a deep sleep, Shushupti. That is the Anubhati. I was happily asleep. I did not experience anything. When we wake up, we say that. Similarly, that fellow, once he falls into a trance, he cannot wake up on his own. Sometimes he, in fact, alerts somebody close by He tells somebody close by, his devotees mostly, he tells them, do you know one thing? I'm going into the samadhi. You wait whether I'm coming back after 3 days. If I don't come back, you try to, disturb my body so that I can come back to senses. He gives permission. He tells so many days I'm going to go into samadhi, but I want to be able to come back, so you have to wake me up. So he is in a state between prapti and that turyavastha. So he cannot come back, he can enter into it, but still he comes back. Somebody wakes him up and he'll come back. He'll still hold the body. Why? Because of loka shangraha. He has some responsibility towards others. Therefore, he comes back. It's like a mother goes to sleep and tells the son that, beta, you wake me up. Okay, wake me up, because then I'll cook for you. I'm not well. Similarly, the guru comes back. The guru tells the disciples or the followers, you please wake me up from my trance, because I still want to give you guidance and love and protection. And the ultimate level, when is Brahmavid Varishta, that is Turiya Tita Avastha. You have that Turiya Avastha, Jagrata, Swapna, Sushupti. There is a Turiya Avastha, A, U, Ma, and then you have a Turiya Avastha in Vedanta. Here is Turiya Tita Avastha, the seventh state. What happens there? No. Neither he wakes up on his own, nor you can wake him up. He perennially enters into that deep state of trance. Because he is no more having anything to do with the drishya. He becomes Drik Chaitanya Swarupa. Why am I mentioning it? Because today we want to, because that particular sutra that we were doing, if you remember, Tadarudha Pramitehe. What is that Turiya Avastha? How to make sense of it? Therefore, I mentioned all that. Okay. So once you stay there, then you are, he's saying, Yatha Swapnanuvatarthan Prabuddho Naiva Pashyati, Tatha Bhavanaya Yogi Sansaram Naiva Pashyati. The same way that a person who wakes up from dream doesn't see the dream anymore. See, this is Drishtanta. In Drashtantika, he's saying, same way the sadhaka, when he graduates to the higher plane of Turyavastha, he doesn't see the sansara as real. What was the Drishtanta? Exactly opposite. The way a person who wakes up doesn't see the dream, same way the person who sees the reality doesn't see it as real when once he sort of graduates to that higher plane. So your waking life also becomes dreamlike, and therefore you don't see that as real. And then, as we had done it yesterday, he is quoting Iti Tatha. He's taking a sentence from Viveka Sudamani. We have done it. I didn't remember it immediately yesterday, the number. Nirasya sad asad vrittihi sankritya padamandaram vihaya kalpana jalam advaitena paraparam yaha swatma niroto nityam kala graseka tatparaha. Look at the courage and adventurous attitude of that Vedanti, the aspirant. He wants to completely surmount, overcome, go beyond any idea of death as a limitation of the consciousness, because he doesn't see consciousness anymore as a process of the brain. It's not a biological process. Consciousness is not an aspect of the biological process associated with the brain. If it were so, when we die, the consciousness will die, but he knows that I am pure consciousness. This consciousness that I am is only apparently linked and is kind of couched in this particular body-mind complex. It's only apparently couched in this. Truth of the matter is, this body-mind complex and many others are actually supported by that supreme consciousness that I am. Is the exact opposite of how we see it. Consciousness, what is the premise for consciousness? What is the platform? This body-mind complex. Vedanta explains exactly differently. Out of consciousness, everything has come. We are appendages on the consciousness. Consciousness is not an appendage on us. Therefore, he is saying, Kaivalya padabhag yogi sa nirvana padam labhed. That fellow, having leaving behind what is present, what is absence, what exists, what doesn't exist, and then what is sin and what is, what is good act, what is bad act. He lives behind everything that appears in doubles, right, wrong, good, bad. These are having something to do with an existence or a level of existence which is relative by nature, relative to something, it's good or bad. The absolute has no comparison, there's no second. Is desha kala vastu parisheda sunyam. Therefore, there is nothing to compare it with. We just compared with sansara, Brahma, Satya, Jagana, Mithya, in order for a clarity at an initial level. But the sansara is not a comparable with Brahman. It is the only one thing which is there. The supreme consciousness is only one thing there. All of us are essentially projections or appearances. Therefore, he is established in that stage. Okay? Now, the doubt appears in the mind, in the mind of the student, or a person who will have some rational thoughts, a rational mind, who is listening to this. You will have a few problems. What are these problems? That is mentioned as an introduction to the aphorism or sutra number 42nd. What is it? Nanu evam jiva sankshaye. Now, because you mentioned it earlier, tadarudha pramitesh tat kshayat avilasa kshayat jiva sankshaya. That jivatva vritti, jivatva jnana, jivatva lakshana, whatever you are saying, that gets nullified, weakened, it evaporates, it falls off. But I don't see that. At the same time, you say Thakur was Jivana Mukta, Ramana Maharshi was Jivana Mukta. There are so many Atmic Jnanis. They don't die instantly. What do you mean by Jiva Sankshayaha? Do they die? No. Therefore, he's raising a question. No, jivatva bhave vinaste. When jivatva bhava gets destroyed, because of what? Tadarudha pramitehe. When one's consciousness is firmly established in that universal Siva consciousness, he has no more anything to do with the samsara. Then he's asking, vinaste sati dehapato asya yoginah bhavati. Jiva Sankhya was saying, so the body should fall. Naso kadapi kasyapi drishyate. However, we have seen so many Jivanamukta Purushas. We haven't seen anyone dying because of self-realization. Do they die because of something? Because we know that after Atmajnana, Papa Punya would not follow him. There will be Ashlesha Vinasha. Vinasha of Sanchita Karma, Ashlesha of Agami Karma. However, Prarabdha Karma will be there and he will hang around a little until the Prarabdha Karma are kind of completely exhausted. Because they have started giving results. There is some, what do you call it, inertia of motion. There is some momentum. And the momentum has to exhaust itself by covering a certain distance. Once that distance is covered, the arrow, the bullet or anything, it comes to a stop. Similarly, the life of the sadhaka or the Jivana Mukta comes to a halt in the sense the body falls and he never comes back, he is liberated. Therefore, he's saying, but he doesn't die. Tasmat katham ayam turya-rudha pramitihi. First thing you are saying, when a person is turya-rudha pramitihi, when he is established in that ultimate level of atmajnana or self-awareness, then there is jiva sankshayaha, but his body doesn't fall. Why it doesn't fall? Then, and if it doesn't fall, how can I call him somebody who is established in that ultimate stage of consciousness? Because he's still eating, sleeping, going to the market, taking medicines. What do you mean that he doesn't have anything to do with the samsara and he's as if he's in a deep sleep state and he won't come back? He's a Brahmavida Varishta. How do you say all that? Therefore, he's saying, Bhuta Kanchuki Tada Vimuktaha Bhuya Patishamaha Paraha. This is the aphorism. What is Kanchuka? Kanchuka is like a cloak that you're wearing. It's like it's like a bath gown or maybe an overcoat or something. It's something you're wearing it for some time. It's a mask. It's a cloak that you're wearing. So Kanchuka for a sword would be the sheath in which you are storing it. Kanchuka is a word sort of refers to that particular skin which the snake, after some time, at a periodic interval, it sort of throws it off, shakes it off, and moves forward. The whole skin comes off, and the tiger moves on. It has a new skin coming from within. And it doesn't look back at that skin and say, oh my God, that's mine. No, it abandons it, it moves forward. The Vedantists and both the Kashmiri Saiva experts are very fond of this example of the snake skin that it abandons, forsakes, leaves behind. It doesn't have any identification anymore. Like when we said goodbye, we were very in love with your teacher, and there was a particular chair where you were sitting, or even more fondly, will remember the particular room which you occupied as a student. You go back to that college, go to that particular chair. You will remember all that, but you have no sense of identification. Once I went into the particular chair which occupied the bed in a hostel after some 25 years, and I saw that they have not removed something I had painted on that, the wardrobe, or the almirah they was there to keep your books. They have not removed. Whosoever has come, I thought, okay, let it be there. So I remembered it. I looked at it fondly. I had no sense of attachment. You have left it behind. You don't say, this is my chair. You don't have any sense of identification. You just have a memory of it, but you have left it behind. You're moving on. Similarly, all these examples are given to drive home the point that a spiritual aspirant, when he ascends to that level of universal consciousness, he becomes living liberated. He becomes Jivana Mukta. Even though he has this body, he's liberated in his living self. He does remember, if you ask him, where are you from? With some resistance, they would say, yeah, this body was born in Bengal or Odisha or South India. But if you try to push the conversation deeper into those past things, they would avoid you. But they will not disown it. They would say, yeah, I was from that particular area. I studied in that college. But they don't have any attachment to it. They don't have any identification. They have moved forward. Bhuta kanchuki tada vimuktaha bhuyaha patishamaha paraha. Now, when does body identification troubles a person? When he thinks actually he has something to do with his body. He has that purya stakatmaka pramiti. He has that sense of identification. He has that purya staka abhimana, that shukshma sarira. This is how I think. This is my swarupa. This is what I am. This is my social identity. This is my economic identity. This is my nationality. This is my political ideology. He has all that. These are limited projections of that universal consciousness which he or she is. This is a limited edition of that universal consciousness as a result of an inversion. Right? Therefore, he's saying, Bhuta kanchuki tada vimuktaha bhuyaha patishamaha paraha. No, he doesn't die. The body continues, but he is at the highest level. He's no more a Pashu, but he's a Pashupati. He's in control of all these forces which operate at a lower level. That is what is sought to be explained here. Let's look at the commentary. And he says, Tada bimukta bhuyah patishamaha paraha. Therefore, he is liberated and he becomes patishamaha in order to do stuti or praise that state of ascension, that state of realization, and motivate all of us to reach there. He says, patishamaha paraha. He's the ultimate thing. He's comparable to Lord Shiva. He's at that highest level of self awareness. Tada, that word, bhuta kanchuki tada. At what time? What do you mean by tada? He's explaining. Tada iti ukta avilasa prasamanena. Tada, when there is tad kshayat, in the earlier aphorism it had come avilasha kshayat, because lower level of cravings have sort of been pacified, they have been nullified, neutralized. That is what he was mentioning. Tada iti ukta avilasa prasamanena. When you have silenced all your lower level cravings, not because you are suppressing them, but because you are identified. Rasavarjam rasopyasya param drishta nivartate. Once you see the ultimate thing, the hidden desires you have, they lose their power over you. Therefore, he's saying what? Binaste prane puryashtaka pramatru bhavarahitye sati. So you have that prana sakti is functioning, the breath is there, but you do not have your identification that I'm breathing, I have to hold on to this body, otherwise I'm going to die. You have this pancha kleshas. No. Therefore, when it is so, ayam bhuta kanchuki, this physical sees. Deha aramvakani, your annamaya kosha is made out of what? Out of this panchabhutas. So, deha aramakani pancha mahabhutani avaraka vastramiva. As if it's a cloak, it's a cover. You are wrapped in that. This panchabhuta, this body, is a covering for the universal consciousness that you are. It's like akasa in ghata, ghata akasha, but akasa is all pervading. You put a pot and you say this is the pot sky. The sky doesn't become limited to the size of the pot. For the sake of convenience, we call it pot sky. Similarly, you refer to your consciousness as I am this, your Pratyek Chaitanya, you're referring to yourself. However, he's saying Pancha Mahabhutani Avaraka Vastram Iva Bhinnam Bhavati. He's being able to distinguish his pure consciousness from the frame, the body mind frame in which this functions or appears. Natu Ahantas Padasparshakani. He doesn't have any ego identification. I am this body, this is my body. Ahanta sparsha, ahanta padasparshakani. It doesn't create that ego identification in his case. Yato hi prakalapita pasujana iva parimita ahanta bhava nibritau satyam vimukta nirvana bhaka sanjayate. Why so? He's explaining why. Prakalapita pasujana Eva. Now you have this imaginary animal existence which you think is real at a lower level when you have not spiritually ascended to the highest plane. Eva parimita ahang bhava nibritau. Or parimita is that limited consciousness of who you are. Ahang bhava, purna ahangta bhava is aham brahmasmi. That is why the Guru gives us advice, tattvamasi, you are that. Thou art that. You are that. What is that? That is that Param Brahma. What are they in the beautiful Doha of Kabir, Pani me meen piyasi. The fish is in a thirsty, it's swimming in water and moves around looking for God in different tirthas and this and that. Therefore, he's saying it's all within. Then he's saying Nibrito tasyam bimukta nirvana bhak sanjayate. Then he deserves, he's a nirvana bhak. He gets liberation. Yena yoga pasupatina samo. And by this process of ascension, the process of self-realization, what happens? That yogi, Pasupatina Samo, he becomes comparable with Pashupati, that Lord Shiva. Pasupatina samo Satchidananda Ghana Parameshwara Swarupa Vishnu Bhavati. Then he is fully lost in that absolute divine consciousness. He is absolutely not distracted by the sansara. Tataha eva paripurnaha samyak tanmayatam gataha. Then what happens? Tataha, after this, tataha eva, therefore, paripurnaha. His, he reaches that stage, purnamadaha purnamidam. He reaches that stage of fullness, sovereignty, complete swatantriya. Paripurnaha samyak tanmayatam gataha, tanmayatam, that Shivamayatam. It becomes full, tanamaya. That means he's full of tat. What is that tat? That tattva, that tat is that Shiva tattva. Tanmayatam gataha yatha muktayam tvachi. Now, the way the snake abandons muktayam tvachi manidharasya. Manidhara is sarpa, because we believe that there is some kind of a precious stone in the head of the snake, and you call it that in muktas. There was some belief that you have muktas also in the head of the gajamani, in the head of the elephants, and also in the head over the fang of the cobra. Therefore, saying manidharasya tvachi manidharasya ahangtabhimanam naiva bhavati. Once he abandons his conjugal, the snake, dry skin, the snake doesn't look back to say or claim ownership over that piece of skin. This is mine. He has abandoned it. Like, for example, when you are vacating your house, it happens in big cities in India. It is, I don't know, because there aren't so many people in other countries, but in India we have. So what do? You have a lot of stuff. You are changing place. You are migrating. What do? If there's people who are domestic help or working in your house, or you have students or this and that, you say, okay, I'm going. So you want to take this, you want to take this electronic gadget, or you just distribute it or you sell it. You don't have any sense of ownership, even though you used it a lot. You don't have any attachment. You're going forward. Similarly, this particular guy, ahanta abhimanam naiva bhavati, evam cha shiva paramasha abhyasanena. When you have that meditation, contemplation, you are doing that abhyasa, okay? Shiva paramarsha abhyasanena dehado bhinnataya paramrishtepi na pramatrita abhimanaha sanjayate. Even though you say that, yeah, this body is there, I'm functioning in it, and this and that, you don't have any identification with it. Kiva khadga pidhanam. So you have the sheath of the sword. Yatha khadgad vyatirikitam. You are putting the sword in that. You're carrying it within that sheath. But you know they are two different objects. Tatha vyatirikte sarirado tadgata pramatra bhavena na ayam shishyate. There is no slesha. There is no attachment. It doesn't stick with you. You are still functioning in the body. You are jivana mukta. You are on that ultimate level. Thakur used to still, love is sweet meat, and he'll go here and there, and he'll sit like a boy waiting for his dinner. All those things he used to do. Or if you look at the life of Ramana Maharshi, he'll go out on a walk. But 90% of the time, he was in that Bilapani stage. He would be lying on a small bed in the meditation hall where people would be coming and looking at him and meditating, but he wouldn't be looking at anyone. He would be looking at the sky. He would be completely lost. And everything was dreamlike so far he was concerned. Until somebody goes near and asks him some question, he's not disturbed. He doesn't disturb anybody. Many of the people were kind of in that state. So this is how he's explaining. And then this is how the 42nd one comes to an end. But let's look at the Kshemaraja. How does he explain? A little here and there, and there are a few, he has extracted or quoted some slokas and couplets from some other texts that we'll be looking at. Nanu evam jiva sankhe sati asya dehapataha praptaha na cha asau so prabudhyasa So prabuddhasya api dehinah sadhya eva drishyate tat katham ayam tadarudha pramitihi. So first thing, that introduction, we haven't seen anybody dying, because according to you that there is jiva sankhya, but nobody dies. So how can we accept that he is in that ultimate spiritual stage? Tada iti avilasa kshayat. Whatever I have already read is kind of a bit of repetition. He's saying that what do you mean by tada bimukta bhuyah pati samahaparaha? Is explaining that at that level, jiva sankhyaye avilasa kshayat. Because there is no more any craving in him. Jiva sankhyaye. What do you mean by jiva sankhya? It's not dehapata. It's not physical termination of the system, but it is termination of the identification with this physical system or the body mind complex. Puryashtaka pramatrita abhimana vigalane. You have pramatrita, that identification. I am the body, I'm a pramata. So that kind of agency as a knower, as a doer, with the sukshma sarira that we have, the mind, the body, the emotional seat, manomaya kosha, vijnanamaya kosha. Bigalane, when it melts down, Bigalane sati, ayam bhuta kanchuka. What are these kanchukas? You now just quickly give me a second and you look at the message that I have given you. You see the kanchuka word is there, pancha kanchukas of Lord Shiva, 5 veils. We have already sort of discussed this earlier, that Chit Shakti of Lord Shiva and Shuddha Vidya Shiva, which is liberating in nature, that becomes Maya Shakti, starting with Vidya. Okay? And when it becomes Maya, it becomes a veiling power. And why so? Because he wants to create this samsara. Therefore, he has to create limited consciousness. And he does it why? He's Swatantra. He just does it out of his own volition. He doesn't take orders. He doesn't do anything. He can do whatever he wants. It's the supreme consciousness. Now you have these 5 Shaktis of Lord Shiva, which is Chit Shakti, Ananda Shakti, Ichha Shakti, Jnana Shakti, and Kriya Shakti. Look at the, column 1. So these are the Pancha Shakti of Lord Shiva. And Panchakritya we have discussed earlier. What is there? So you have Srishti, Sthiti, and Laya, and Tirobhava and Anugraha. He creates, he sustains, he terminates. Then there is Tirobhava. Now Tirobhava and Anugraha. Anugraha part, if you look at it, it's in the Shaktis. Pancha Shaktis of Lord Shiva. He does Anugraha to us. And Tirobhava, he hides through these Pancha Kanchukas. Why the word Kanchuka is written? Because these are not real Shiva Shaktis. These are like the dry skin. It's a veil. Because of that veil, Lord Shiva appears in us with Jivatva Bhava. He creates this lower order of consciousness. So the Chit Shakti, which is supreme consciousness, which is unlimited, becomes limitation of power is Kala. So Chit becomes Kala. Okay, limited ability to act. So Sarva Kartikatva becomes Kala. You could do anything. Now you are an expert in a few things. That's how we say Kalakara. He's excellent in singing and stuff like that. So that power becomes Kala, limitation. Ananda Sakti, that bliss. Okay. That becomes what? Desire, raga. You attach to a few things. You have lower order of attachments. There you have Purna Ahanta, and now you have Apurna Manyata. So you have raga, you want this, you want that. Raga is limitation of your desire. There you could do anything and you could have that. Ananda Sakti. And then you have Ichha Sakti. Okay. And that sort of gets limited, restricted to limitation of space, Niyati. Okay. So you are now trapped in the chain of causal chains and externalities. This happens, that happens, niyati. It was destined to be like that, cause-effect relationships. So he cannot do anything he wants. Now he's in a frame of rules and regulations which he himself has created. Then you have Jnana Sakti. He was Sarvagya. No, he's not Sarvagya as Pasu as us. What is he? he becomes vidya, limited knowledge. So you have vidya is domain specific wisdom. Universal wisdom is gone. And finally, kriya sakti, you could do anything. Now it becomes kala, limitation of time. Okay. So you have linear time, and the timelessness of Lord Shiva is kind of replaced. Okay. Now let's come back to what we were discussing. And let's go to the text now. So you now have understood what is that Kanchukatva, then we will move forward. Dehinah sadhya eva drishyate tat katham ayam tadarudha pramitihi, that he is established in that Turiya avastha. How does it happen? How can you argue like this? Iti asankya aha. Taking that doubt into the mind, the Acharya is explaining. Tada iti abhilasa khya. Tada means tada vimuktaha means when the cravings are gone. Jiva sanchaye means not death of the body, but purya staka pramartrita abhimana vigalani sati ayam bhuta kanchuka sarira arambhini bhutani kanchukamiva, like external teeth of the snake, that skin. Byatiriktam, and what? Pravanam iva natu ahangtapadasparsini yasya. The person is no more attached to himself. He just has left it behind. He's still living in that body but not attached to it anymore. Tathabhuta hasan bimukta nirvana bhak. When you are completely free from identification with the body mind complex and your emotional seat, your intellectual seat, then you are liberated. Yato bhuya vahulyena patisamaha. Therefore, it's mentioned in order to praise him as that he's compatible with Lord Shiva. Then what? Chidgana parameshwara surupavishtaha tata eva paraha purnaha sarira vrittir vratam. He's saying, do you remember the third chapter a while ago in the 26th aphorism? We saying katha japaha, earlier we mentioned. What kind of mantra he chants? Whatever he speaks becomes a mantra. Katha japa, no japa. He's in that sahaja avastha. He has reached to the ultimate level. And what kind of sadhana he has to do? Sarira vrittir vratam. Holding onto the body itself is a vrata for him. Why? Because by being in the body, he's benefiting others. He has nothing to gain here. He has got whatever he wanted to get, therefore he's not getting anything. Vratam. Ityukta sutrartha nitya, what we have mentioned in the 26th aphorism, by that logic, dalakalpe dehadu stitopi, even though you are in this whole framework of things, the body mind complex, na tat pramartata sanskarena api sprishtah. That agency which you had, even as a sanskara, as an impression, doesn't trouble you anymore. You don't have any identification. You don't have any possessiveness. You're completely liberated. Taduktam Sri Kularatnamalayam. There is a text called Kularatnamala, and there is a mention of it. Yada Guruvaraha Samyak Kathayet Tanna Sansayaha. Guruvaraha. Here I was telling you that Lord Shiva is the Paramaguru, and the Guru is kind of an embodiment of him. Now, in the Kashmiri Saiva Darshan, what they're saying is that when this Shaktipada happens, when the Guru actually transforms the wisdom and knowledge, it's just not like a gift packet that is given to anybody. It's somebody who has that serious aspiration and does a lot of sadhana, and the right Guru sort of comes into his life, he gives that Shaktipada. So it's essentially transfer of wisdom. It's not like of course, it's a little different, because there is some bit of a biochemical aspect to it, in the sense that he transfers energy. It's a transformative passing over of the wisdom and the power and the realization. When the Guru transfers it, he can do it by looking into you, by touching you, by giving you a mantra in different ways, by speaking to you. Like Ramana Maharshi used to, with his piercing look, he could just stare at you for a few seconds and transform your life. So gurus used to do Saktipatha in different ways. He's saying, Yada Guruvara Samyaga Kathayet Tanna Sansayaha. As a result of this Saktipatha, there is no more doubt. He removes everything. Muktaha Teneva Kalena. That very moment he gets liberated, the Shishya. Yantraha tishtati kevalam. What stays back? This engine stays back. This body mind complex stays back as an engine. The pramata is gone. The individual pramata is gone. He has become universal consciousness. There is no guru, no shishya after this. After Atmajnana, there is no guru, no shishya. Why? Guru shishya is all out of bheda buddhi. Vyavahara dasayam eva. During the vyavahara, you have all this. Ultimately, all of us will sit in a meditation. How can you say who is a guru, who is older, who is younger? All of us are in that Siva consciousness, in that universal consciousness. King Punaschekatanastu Pare Brahmaniyah Sudhi, that wise guy who is established in that Param Brahma Tattva, the universal consciousness. And then you have Tatregatanata, is constantly repeating that Brahmakara Vritti. Ksharamatra Stito Yoga Yogi Samukta Mochet Prajaha. Even if for a second a person very deeply, that is the beauty of Kashmiri Saivism. The Vedanti will be hard-nosed and he'll hammer this point into our minds. He's saying that you may have to pass through hundreds and hundreds of lives of serious sadhana to get liberation, because it's not very easy. Some people believe that even now, no one has got liberated till now. There is Eka Jiva Vada, and therefore they say nobody has got liberated. Or they say, no, a lot of people have got liberated. They believe in Aneka Jiva Vada. Paramarthikatvena, obviously there is no Jiva, no Ishvara, nothing. But you can look at it. There are different schools of Vedanta within Advaita Vedanta. There are different arguments, very sophisticated arguments. Well, one of the key things that they mention is that when you have Brahmakara Vritti, you are still not fully liberated because you are having Vritti. Vritti means some kind of a connectivity. For connectivity to happen, there will be more than one. Then when the vritti also kinds of get terminated, there is no mental process anymore, but there is that universal consciousness, then the person is fully liberated and there is nothing to get. There is no bandha and moksha, as we have done earlier. Nobody is bound or liberated. These are all mental words. Universal consciousness is one. Yeah, does it mean we'll stop our sadhana? No. Who said that? We are graduating from one stage to the another. We need all that. That doesn't mean that, like, for example, we're going to live our lives, doesn't mean that one day the whole solar system will not become part of a black hole. And there'll be no Earth, there'll be no Venus, there'll be no Mars. But then we are planning to go to Mars right now. Similarly, we'll have to continue our sadhanas, but we don't have to refute that ultimate truth. The existence of the ultimate truth has nothing to do with the details of our lives, in which we will have to still go through the advice of the Shastras regarding some moral action, what is right, what is wrong. We have to make all this, we have to pass through the moral calculus every day, trying to act right and be good, right? Without having to refute the ultimate truth. But in fact, with remembering the ultimate truth all the time, lest we are led astray by this devious sansara. King Punasaikatanastu Pare Brahmaniya Sudhi Kshanamatra Sito Yogi Sa Mukto Mosayet Prajaha. He doesn't only get liberated, he also sort of liberates others. He benefits. His very presence liberates others. Then he's saying, Mrityujitapi, there is another text he's quoting. Nimisha Unmisha Matram tu Tattvam Jadi Upalabhyate. You blink of an eye, it's fractions of a second. Even for fractions of a second, if you're able to Tattvam Yadi Upalabhyate, if you actually get that truth, even for a fractions of a second, Tadeva Kila Mukta, so that particular point, Tada Eva, you shall get liberated. Fractions of a second, if you can get that electric shock, it's like a person is mad. They earlier used to, have treatment where they will pass some electric waves in his mind to sort of stabilize it. Very bad now. The psychiatrist are opposed to it. But spiritually, it holds good. Even 1 second of the wave passing through it, or that spiritual energy hitting us, then you are disconnected from everything. It happened with Ramana Maharshi. It happened with a lot of people who have sort of noted their spiritual journey in their journals. Nimisha unmesha matram tu tattvam yadi upalabhyate tadaiva kila muktaha asau na punarjanmam chapnuya. Then there is no need for coming back, because you become jivana mukta. Also, you also have the right to have videha kaivalya. So the body falls when prarabdha is over, and then we don't have to come back. Kulasarepi, there is another text he's quoting, and he's saying, Oho tattvasya mahatmyam jadamatrasya sundari. Lord Shiva is addressing, Divine Mother is, Oh Sundari, Oh Luminous One. Do you know one thing? Aho tattvasya mahatmyam. Do you know the power of this truth? How powerful is this universal truth about the Shiva Tattva? Jata matrasya sundari. Even if it appears for fractions of a second in a person. Sotrantaram tu saprapte. Even if a person gets this truth, not aporoksha jnana, even poroksha jnana, intellectual apprehension. He just listens, only Shravana. That also is very great. Tatshanad eva muchyate. That very moment he is liberated. Now, if you ask a Vedanti, Bhagavan also says that you will get liberated by taking my name. Why do jnana sadhana? A lot of people ask this question. You see, there is something called arthavada. In order to motivate, as I keep telling this, the little boy, he doesn't want to study. The mother says, you want to be an officer, you want to be the richest man, you want to be a great player. Yeah. So you have to do 10 sit-ups. If I do 10 sit-ups, I'll get an Olympic medal. And mother says, yes, of course you would. You finish this maths exercise, the first chapter. So what will I be? No, you'll be a great scientist. Doesn't mean, actually the mother doesn't mean it, but the mother doesn't mean that by doing the exercise alone he can reach there. But doing his maths, his coursework, his homework, these are stepping stones to reach that ultimate destination. Similarly, he's saying these are, to my mind, arthavadas in order to praise the power of this truth. Why? In order to motivate us. Stuti or nindaparaka, arthavadas. So he's telling us that you do it, then you will get that liberation. This is the verse number 42, which has come to an end. Now we'll start the verse number 43 and the detailed commentaries. If we can't finish today, we'll take it up on Thursday. We just have another 3 aphorisms. Most likely on Thursday or maybe Saturday, we'll wind it up. So the verse number 43, an introduction to that. Again, the student has a set of doubts in his mind and is coming up with some questions. And that is quoted, that is captured in the commentaries. Nanu, Bhuta Kanchuketapi Asya Turyapada Arudasya Katham na Nivartate. No, you are saying, okay, I agree that he doesn't have to die, but he becomes comparable with Lord Shiva. Once he becomes comparable with Shiva, but why should he hang on to this body frame? Why shouldn't it fall off? That is the question. Ityasankyaha naisargikaha prana samandaha. Naisargikaha. Naisargika. The mother's love for the child is considered naisargika maya. Naisargika prema or mamata. It's not limited to only the humans. Even animals, and you will see YouTube videos. I saw one hen protecting its chicks from a cobra. And she fought. You Google, you find that. They do everything to protect. They are offsprings. The mothers do everything to protect their offsprings. Do they make any effort to reach there? No, it's naishargika. Naishargika means it's not created. It doesn't have to be achieved. It doesn't have to be created. That happens by its very nature. Naishargikaha prana samandaha. You see, the connection of the consciousness, which is operating in the physical frame or physical seat, has to have this relationship with prana, breathing, and which sustains this body. Okay? Because everything happens because of this prana shakti. And it has to have some connection with the body. Therefore, he doesn't have to die. Why should he die? It's very natural. Until the prana shakti is there, he will be there. Therefore, he's saying naisargikaha prana samandaha. Now, we will only be doing the britti and we'll stop there. because we just have about a couple of minutes, and we will carry forward the Shiva Sutra Vimarshani and other commentaries. Nishargat Swatyantriyatmanah Swabhava Ayato Naishargikaha Prana Sambandaha. Nishargat, because it's not created, it's Swabhavika. Swatantriyatmanah, because that you have that independent sovereignty of the soul, and it has to have that natural connection with the prana. Swabhavat ayato naisargikaha prana sambandaha samvidikila bhagavati. That chit sakti, bhagavati. He's saying sambit sakti, chit sakti, bhagavati, vishwa vaichitriyam. Okay? Avabhasaishuhu. It wants to create this diversity. The vaichitriya, srushti vaichitriya will be there. How it will do? It has to create units of individual consciousness. How does that happen? By spreading that prana sakti, prana sancharana, pranana. And then this whole lila will unfold. That's how the Mahamaya Sakti plays that game. Therefore he's saying Vishwa Vaichitram Avavava Abhivhasa Ishuhu Sankocha Avabhasa Purpakam. How does that happen? It applies the principle of contraction. The universal thing is there, as we have discussed it earlier. You have the solar system. What was there in the beginning? You had the sun. Okay, well, let's start there. And what is there? There is only hydrogen becoming helium and again became hydrogen. But suddenly you have the periodic table, right? After some hundreds of millions of years. Where from they all came? From that reality called the sun. Where all these basic elements were not there, we are calling them fundamental elements. They were not fundamental. They didn't even exist. Once the earth is there, you have so many, you have the, acidic and alkaline, all kinds of things in the periodic table. Where were they in the beginning? No, they weren't there. Where they will be after all of us turn into a black hole, they will not be there. So whatever we are calling absolute truth is actually transitional realities. Therefore, he thinks, and how does that happen? The principle of contraction. The absolute has to descend to the level of details. Then the diversity becomes a reality. One becomes many and assumes different identities, different names and forms. Then we have samsara. That is the beauty of it. He says, Sankojat asata ashesa vishwa spuratatmaka pranana rupa grahaka bhumikam shritva. So first thing, you create units of consciousness which are knowing selves. They're the grahakas. Then for them you create grahya, objects of connectivity, your sense organs. You have nodes created and they will know. Then that is for our bhoga. The sansara is created for our bhoga. There is an illusory bhokta which is created through this prana sakti. Then there is bhoga. I want a house, I want a car, I have this body, I need food. The bhogya is created. Grahaka is created, then grahya is created. This is how the duality is kind of engineered into this whole lila. Grahaka bhumikam shritva grahya rupa jagata avhasatmana spurati. It creates that delusional reality of bhokta and a bhogya, grahaka and a grahya. These dualities are created. Iti naisargikaha, and that is why it's swabhavika naisargikaha. Swatyantryat prathamam udvasitaha asyaha prana sambandaha. It all starts with it giving us some autonomy through that life force in us. We'll take forward the discussion in the next session, and we will also have the remaining aphorisms. We have just touched the timeline, but one or two questions, anyone? Let's listen to you. Any questions, any comments?
Swamiji, we discussed about Panchakas.
Yes.
This is the effect. And what's the cause? Is it Maya?
Yeah,
Maya leads to...
No, we had actually discussed all that in the first chapter when we did the Anavopaya, and when we are concluding, we'll again look at it. Why this Pancha Shaktis of Lord Shiva become Pancha Kanchukas? Nothing become anything. They appear as if they have become. So the same yogi, when we go to that highest level, then we are able to connect with that reality called Panchashaktis. And when you are not being able to connect with these Panchashaktis, we are looking at the Panchakanchukas. It is like you are looking at some roll gold or some kind of a duplicate ornaments, and you are considering this gold or that reality is valid for you. And then when you go to the next level, you know the reality of it, then just imagine you are a scientist. You're not bothered about what it is, you are bothered about what are the properties and what are the, if you're working on, for example, solid state physics, what kind of reality you're talking about. You're not even looking at gold, you're looking at something deeper, subtler. Similarly, when we move deeper and subtler in our consciousness, then we connect with higher level realities. The conchukas are the wailing powers. They become active when we descend and we are in the sansarika avastha. How do we explain as to why we are so passionate about sansara?